Hello and welcome to Film Feels. This week I'm reviewing Wonder Woman 1984. This film was directed by Patty Jenkins, screenplay by Patty Jenkins and story by Jeff Johns. Produced by Zack Snyder, starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig. Well, what's a brief synopsis of what this movie is? It's 1984, decades after the events of the first film. We find Diana has been working as an anthropologist and archaeologist. The world is engrossed by rampant capitalism, and an oil tycoon at his wit's end acquires an ancient relic that can grant wishes to any who touch it. I'm going to start off with what I liked about the movie. It was really great to see Chris Pine again. Such a fantastic actor with great screen presence and with incredible chemistry with Gal Gadot. He was probably the most funniest and probably the highlight of the whole movie. That being said, that doesn't really play to its strength, but it is something that I did enjoy. I did really like some of the action scenes in the movie. Some of the hand-to-hand combat and the choreography was quite fun. There is an action scene later on in the movie that gave me like Indy and The Last Crusade vibes, which is quite cool. Nowhere near as badass as Last Crusade, but still, I did find myself enjoying it, and Gal Gadot looked really involved in the stunts as well. It looked awesome. Pedro Pascal was fantastic to see. I mean, he was very different than him being in The Mandalorian. He was very wild and exciting and charming. Brought a lot of complexity to his character, Maxwell Lord, as well, who originally is quite a dark character, like obscenely dark, like too dark to even be believably that dark. Kristen Wiig was also great to see. I thought that she was fantastic in the movie. She didn't seem out of place given her comedic acting in the past, and I enjoyed her performance as well. That being said, what the choices that were made with her character and her story, her backstory, I didn't particularly like. I'll say now, I never really was a Wonder Woman fan. I never really paid attention to her in the comics. I didn't watch the TV show when I was growing up, but after seeing the first movie, I was invested. I really found Gal Gadot's depiction of Wonder Woman. It was such an exciting character to have. She was strong and powerful, but had a very naive kind of goodness to her. She was like a female Goku. She was incredibly powerful, but soft and naive at the same time. And it was a great story to watch. It was also a bit dark and gritty, and the action scenes were quite intense and frantic. I loved it. It got me on board with anything else that she'd ever do afterwards, and this is not quite up to speed. It's really such a shame to say it, and it's so sad. The things I don't like is that the film runs a bit slow, and I don't think any movie can be too long. It just needs to be interesting and captivating. I could watch 10 hours of Breaking Bad or Endgame, which is 3 hours, and I don't complain. When a film feels too long, that means you're just finding it boring. That's what that means. Was I entertained?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I was not. The film didn't really have a lot of cohesion going on with the plot. A lot of the choices that were made within the story were a bit strange. It was very weird. I don't know, it seems very strange. Some scenes just also almost have no purpose whatsoever, and then the way that they're stitched together in the editing are quite nonsensical, and also leave questions to, how and why and what, and these kind of things are just, textbook things that pull you out of the movie. I shouldn't have to be thinking about this. I should just be able to get lost into the movie. The storytelling itself as well doesn't stick to its own rule making, which is really bad, because when you're having something like wish making in a story, that's a pretty intense ability. That can make and break any story, because you can do anything and you can wreck any hopes and dreams of the protagonist or the antagonist. Because the actual wish making didn't have any solid rule set, it just made me kind of confused in the movie, and again it brought me further out of the movie to the point where I was kind of annoyed. At times she faces villains or henchmen or low-level criminals who are like awful caricatures of what they should be. I can't tell if that's tied into the fact that they were trying to change the tone, or if they were trying to lighten the tone to fit with the 1980s aesthetic, or they're trying to get to the Marvel movies market. I'm not really sure. It just seemed ridiculous. And it was very strange going from like quite a gritty, hardcore World War I film, which seemed quite believable, without the ridiculous, fantastic element that is Wonder Woman and the gods. But everything else with all the other characters were all quite interesting and reasonably believable characters. But there's an opening scene where a stressed out jewel thief freaks out and threatens to drop a baby over the railings in the mall. And even the fellow robbers were shouting in disbelief at this point, just staring, just like, what are you doing? Like that, like we rob people, but we don't throw babies off of stairs. It's just like, I don't know if anyone's that desperate to not go to jail. It's just that what you are about to do is not just be caught stealing, but now it's attempted infanticide. That's just, ugh. It just seemed ridiculous. The majority of the negative presence in the film are men, and that is a bit odd. And they also the representation is in a ridiculous fashion. It seems like man bashing, but I don't want to think like that. I think it's just lazy. I think it's just lazy because it's easy to make a robber a male and make an attacker a male, or somebody driving a car frantically a male, and just any particular everyday inconvenience you could just say, oh yeah, man did that, and it's kind of lazy. It's lazy. There's only one real female antagonist. I have to say, in defense of the movie, the change in tone and the lighter aesthetic, they do take away Diana's sword and shield, and then it's primarily her relying on a lasso. And there isn't really any opponent that she faces that warrants any use of lethal weaponry, which is fair enough, I guess. But there's no really reason why she couldn't have got serious at any moment and just whip out her sword and shield and start scaring people into doing what she wanted, because that would be horrifying. I mean, she could deck anyone easily. The film's themes as well are quite loose and vague. The intro scene on Themyscira didn't serve much purpose other than to establish values of truth and integrity. And later in the movie, it kind of seems to be about the ideas of sticking to what's true and being a person of integrity, I guess. It's so weird that we have to make this effort to fill in the blanks, or to pull the film together for the filmmaker. The cohesion just isn't there. That's what a symptom of that is. Not much was done really with the dialogue to make up for the behavior of some of the characters. Some of the things that just happen and don't have any explanation. There's a lecherous male at some point who is just the archetype of a terrible lecherous male who makes a move on Barbara Ann Minerva. And of course, when she gets her powers, she comes back and he's like wearing the same clothes and just looks exactly the same, like as if that's just his job, to be this kind of guy who harasses women. I'll go more into all that kind of stuff in spoilers, but it's just bizarre. I kept trying to think. I tried to make excuses. I was like, oh, well, maybe this is a side effect of the pandemic situation, the economic constraints and the way the production has changed, considering the way that the pandemic has made things very uncertain. But truth be told, production for this film finished December 2018, and they only had to do a few further reshoots in June 2019, or by then. So this film has been, practically done since over a year ago. So they've had a lot of time to look at it and go, how does this look? How does this feel? What does this mean? Does this make sense? It seems like nobody made that decision. At no point did anyone decide to change their opinion on anything. Also, there's a strange fight towards the end, which is at nighttime, where Cheetah is fighting against Wonder Woman, and it's at night, and whenever you see those kind of situations, especially when night kind of appears for no real reason, it just seems to cry that you have no real confidence in your VFX, which is a shame. This is very similar to the situation that happened with Black Panther. A lot of the stunts were quite good, but there are moments at the end of the movie where I was like, there was a moment where Diana is running across the road at an incredible speed, and her body almost looks like she's just not even touching the ground. Her like back is so straight, and she's barely running against the floor, and it just looked odd. Again, another odd situation. There is a moment in Underworld, which is a movie that came out decades ago, and there's a part where a lichen werewolf is running after, like as a human, is running after a car, and the way they did it just looks so good. It looks so believable, like that he was grounded with his own gravity, and he was running foot first, pace after pace, and he's just speeding almost as fast or faster than the car that he's chasing against. And it's amazing. And it's such a simple way to do it. Like you can see, they did it with this car, and they had like a platform underneath it, and then the actor would run on the car's like track, this platform, with the camera angle and a bit of camera trickery. It just looks amazing. So I'm going into spoiler territory now. So spoiler alert, because I need to rant, because this is not a great movie. If you don't want to go any further, I'm just going to say right now that I'm giving this a critical miss. Please, it's not worth watching. It was actually kind of upsetting to watch. I mean, if you don't really care about these kind of things, that's fair enough, but I have a feeling, considering it's 2.5 hours long and some of the choices are just so obviously strange and don't really make sense, that you'll probably come out of the cinema not feeling particularly that it was that great a story or worth the risk to the cinema. But anyway, spoilers ahead. So one of the first things that I don't like is that for some reason Diana makes a wish with this relic, this black rock, and she doesn't really say it. It's just implied that she was thinking about her ex, Steve Trevor, and then he comes back, but he doesn't come back in his own body. He comes back inside someone else's body, and that's like, it's a Quantum Leap reference, right? And then I thought about it, I was like, Quantum Leap 1989, that's not even really an 80s reference.
I'm retarded?
That show was way into the end of it, and well into the early 90s, and it's just strange. It doesn't make any sense that he would be inside someone else's body, and then the downside to her wish, which I did say before, that there's actually a price to every wish, and which is the monkey's paw thing, that if you wish for something, it takes something that you hold dear to yourself. In this case, she wishes for her boyfriend to come back, and in return she starts to lose her powers slowly for some reason. But it's almost like she had two downsides, so she didn't actually get her boyfriend back. She got some other dude, but it's his soul or whatever inside him. And it just seemed a bit silly, because then we still see Chris Pine from that point on, so why even bother putting him in his body? And then on top of that, they don't ever reference a moment where they feel like that they're ruining this person's chance to live because they've stolen his body. And Diana at no point even shows remorse for wanting to keep him in that body. It doesn't even show that it crosses her mind that it's kind of a crap thing to do, to steal someone's body just for the sake of keeping your boyfriend. It just seemed like a weird thumbed in Quantum Leap reference. And it would have been alright if they'd actually said, or like there's a writer who's sitting next to them and they're arguing about whether it's okay to go forward in time into someone else's body and steal their body just so that you can see each other again. And then the writer's like, oh my god, that's it, that's the perfect idea for a show. But no, they didn't do anything like that. The wishes again. Barbara Ann makes a wish, and she wishes that she wants to be like Diana, not knowing that Diana's a god, and wishing to be like Diana basically makes you as powerful as a god. But in the original comics, she is the avatar or the vessel for the god of the hunt, and I don't see why that wish doesn't fit in to that idea. Like, she could have just wished to be like Diana. So in return, this god relic puts the god of the hunt into her body, and then the downside is that she loses her humanity, she loses her care and empathy, because that's what the god of the hunt has to be in order to be an effective hunter. That would just fit. One wish, all done. She gets equal powers to Diana, she's a formidable foe, and it also fits in with the comics. But they didn't do that. They did it that she just wants to be like her, attractive like her, and adorned, and then she also wants her strength and confidence. So she gets those things and starts to become a dick, which apparently is the downside to it. Is she just loses her humanity, which is fair enough. There was a scene later on where Barbara is starting to really delve deep into her dark tendencies, and after being attacked by that lecherous man earlier on in the story, she confronts him again while he's still wearing his day job clothes, or I guess, and she's attacking him, and then there are no sentiments, there's no dialogue from the man to give him any sense of redeeming qualities to seem like she's crossed the line, because right now she's attacking like a rapist, an aggressive sexist who just doesn't seem to give a shit about anyone, and then she's kicking him to the ground, and I'm like, yeah, kick him to the ground, he's a piece of shit. Who cares? I don't care if she's becoming a terrible person, because right now she's hurting an even more terrible person. So why would I care about what's happening to her right now? It's like it doesn't really. If there was a moment where he turned and was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I've lost everything," or my wife took everything from me. Like, just give him a reason to hate women in that way. Just give him some kind of reason so that he's like the way he is. So there's some kind of semblance of a human there that's worth saving. It would make it seem more interesting to see her going bad and why it's a bad thing to do. But it's just like, oh no, he deserves it, and yeah, let's just keep kicking him. It just doesn't really make any sense. It's just angry. It just seems angry and hateful. There's also a situation where, because Barbara wishes to be like Diana but doesn't actually wish to be Cheetah, now there's the problem where she's not actually going to turn into a cheetah. So they break the rule of one wish per person, and Barbara gets 2 wishes. And it's like, what? Why does she get 2 wishes? Earlier you said that you couldn't get what you want because that guy didn't have 2 wishes, and then suddenly you're just like, oh, I'll give 2 wishes to her. It doesn't make any sense. It just shows that they didn't think through what they were saying and didn't try to concisely put it together compactly with story making. They were just like, oh yeah, just give her another wish, why not? He's feeling generous. Ugh, that's just so lazy. So later on they're fighting, and Diana flies in with her armor, and it was daytime, and then suddenly it starts ending to dusk and then to nightfall. Then it ensues a battle between Barbara and Minerva as Cheetah, fully formed, which I look back and it didn't look as bad as I thought, but it definitely doesn't shine, literally, considering it's in the dark, and a lot of the movements are very frantic and fast, and you can't really enjoy what's going on, and some of the fight scenes are top down, which is usually a ploy that they use to kind of mask the fact that a stuntman is fighting. And the way that Diana defeats Cheetah is by holding her underwater in water that's being electrified, that she is also in. And it makes me wonder, like, does that mean that Diana is impervious to electricity? Like, she just cannot be electric shocked? I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because she's the daughter of Zeus, but like, why am I having to put that together for myself? Like, why? There should be something that is said earlier on in the movie that points out her strengths and weaknesses, and also allows us to know the limitations to our hero's powers, so we know what can be dangerous and what isn't, and there wasn't any of that. So she goes in to confront Maxwell Lord. It's nighttime at this point, and they have a few exchanges of some, monologues and so on, but even so, it's not very long, and then by the time he theatrically renounces his wish, it's daytime. And it's daytime before he renounces his wish. This is another big problem, is that like renouncing your wish is supposed to take back your wish. So she renounces her wish and Chris Pine disappears back into his own time, into death. And then other people renounce their wish and things kind of disappear. But Maxwell Lord's wish was to be the wishmaker. So wouldn't that mean that if his wish is undone, then all wishes are undone? But that doesn't happen. He renounces his wish, and then it just means that he's no longer at a whim to the stone's effects, but everyone else's wish is still active, and then they progressively start to renounce their wishes and then undo them, like as if it was still contracted even though he gave up his wish. So he technically could have just renounced his wish, everyone else could have kept their wish, and it wouldn't have interfered with him. There would be no penance for it. There's no price to pay. If every negative person's wish was renounced, and the people who wished for nice things, which nobody did, by the way, not a single person wished for something that was good. I don't understand. Somebody, while this catastrophic state that the world's settling into, which is filled with death and destruction and borders and nuclear war, some hippie out there would have said, I wish world peace, or someone would have asked for the ensuing chaos to stop. Somebody would have wished for that. Somebody would have wished for there no more nuclear weapons, or that whoever is actually causing all this to stop what they were doing. It just paints a picture that the filmmaker thinks that the world is filled with selfish, indulgent, and cruel people, and there is just there's a lack of people out there who actually care about making the world into a better place, or doing things for the sake of being selfless and helpful. I know that those people exist. There are many people like that out there. They definitely would have made a wishes that they probably shouldn't renounce as well. But it didn't make any sense. He goes off, it's daytime now for some reason, sees his kid somewhere in the bushes. It's just an odd segue, and they don't really stick to the trope that usually if you have a wish-making situation going on, it usually ends in a situation where the wishes are undone because of someone else's selfless wish, and that helps tidy everything up. But now we're left with the world experiencing a monumental moment, and everyone in the world knows about it. Everyone knows what happens. Everyone heard Diana's voice. Everyone experiencing an incredibly traumatic period. And now we're supposed to believe that nobody's going to be talking about that for the next 20 to 30 years. That would be thought about, talked about. There would be a day about it easily. There would be 84 Day or something, Wonder Woman Day. It's such a sad state of affairs. I'm just disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I feel like that there was meddling going on. I want to believe that Patty Jenkins didn't want it to be this way, but she is the creative writer, so I don't know. It's very strange. Anyway, I'm looking forward to watching my next Marvel movie, which will be Iron Man 2. That should be out on Friday. See what other films I can get and get my hands on and have a watch with. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for the likes, love for the subs, and I'll be seeing you next time. Much love.